The coffee that splashed across Sophia Lawson's white blouse was scalding hot, and the collision that caused it sent her laptop bag sliding across the polished airport floor like a hockey puck, headed for the goal. She gasped, stumbling backward as the stranger she had just crashed into reached out to steady her, his strong hands gripping her shoulders before she could fall completely. "I am so sorry," he said, his voice deep and genuinely concerned. "Are you all right?" Sophia blinked up at him, her breath catching not from the impact but from the striking features of the man before her. He had dark hair that was slightly tousled, as if he had been running his hands through it, sharp jawline covered in a light stubble, and the most intense gray eyes she had ever seen. He wore a simple black t-shirt and jeans, but something about the way he carried himself suggested confidence that went beyond clothing. "I'm fine," she managed, looking down at her ruined blouse and the coffee cup now rolling sadly on its side near her feet. "Just really messy now." "That was entirely my fault. I was not paying attention." He released her shoulders and immediately knelt to retrieve her laptop bag, checking it over with careful hands. "Please, let me help. Is your computer okay?" "I think so. The bag is padded pretty well." Sophia accepted it from him, trying not to notice how his fingers brushed against hers. "Really, it's fine. I was distracted too. I'm running late for my flight." "Where are you headed?" he asked, and she noticed he was scanning the terminal as if looking for something. "Chicago." "My gate is all the way at the other end of this airport, and of course my flight starts boarding in 20 minutes. She dabbed at her blouse with a tissue from her purse, knowing it was a lost cause. The brown stain spread across the white fabric like a map of her morning going wrong. The man seemed to make a decision. "Come with me. I know a shop nearby that sells travel clothes. You can change before your flight." Sophia hesitated. She had been taught not to go anywhere with strangers, but the airport was crowded, and there was something about his earnest expression that made her trust him. Besides, she could not board her flight looking like this. She had an important meeting with a potential client as soon as she landed. "Okay," she agreed, "but I really need to hurry. I promised to get you there on time." He gestured for her to follow him, and she noticed he moved through the crowd with practiced ease as if he spent a lot of time in airports. "I'm Vincent Irving, by the way. Sophia Lawson." Vincent led her to a small boutique tucked between a bookstore and a sandwich shop. The store specialized in emergency travel supplies, and Sophia quickly found a navy blue blouse that would work with her gray slacks. She changed in the fitting room, emerging to find Vincent waiting with a bottle of water and a packaged muffin. "Breakfast," he said, handing them to her. "You dropped your coffee and you said you were running late. I'm guessing you did not eat." She accepted them gratefully, surprised by his thoughtfulness. "Thank you. You really did not have to do all this. I ruined your shirt. It's the least I could do." He walked with her to the register, and before she could pull out her wallet, he had already handed his credit card to the cashier. "Please let me pay for my own blouse," Sophia protested. "Absolutely not. I insist." His tone was gentle but firm, and the cashier was already processing the transaction. They left the store, and Sophia checked her watch nervously. "I have 15 minutes. What gate?" "C-47. Vincent's expression shifted to something she could not quite read. "That's my gate too. What flight?" "United 2847 to O'Hare. We are on the same flight." He said it with a hint of amusement, as if the universe was playing an interesting joke. "Then we definitely need to hurry. Follow me." What happened next surprised Sophia completely. Instead of heading toward the main terminal walkway where throngs of travelers moved at a glacial pace, Vincent guided her to a side corridor. A security guard stood at the entrance, and Vincent nodded to him. The guard immediately opened the door, allowing them through. How did you do that? Sophia asked as they walked down an empty hallway that seemed to run parallel to the main terminal. I travel a lot. You learn the shortcuts. He was not lying, but she sensed he was not telling her the whole truth either. They emerged near Gate C-47 just as the boarding announcement was being made. Sophia felt relief wash over her. Thank you so much. I would have missed this flight if not for you. It was my fault you were delayed in the first place. Vincent pulled out his phone, glancing at the screen before looking back at her. What seat are you in? 23B. Middle seat, unfortunately. I booked last minute. Something flickered across his face. I see. Well, have a good flight, Sophia. Before she could respond, a woman in a crisp uniform approached Vincent. Mr. Irving, we are ready for you to board whenever you are. Sophia watched as Vincent nodded and began walking toward the gate entrance, not through the regular line but through a separate door marked for special assistance. He glanced back at her once, offering a small wave before disappearing. The boarding process was chaotic as always, and Sophia found herself wedged in the middle seat between a businessman, who immediately fell asleep against the window, and a college student who had her headphones turned up so loud that Sophia could hear every word of the music. She settled in, pulling out her tablet to review her presentation for the meeting in Chicago. The flight attendant's voice came over the speaker, welcoming everyone aboard and announcing that they would be departing shortly. Sophia was deep into her notes when she heard movement in the aisle beside her. "Excuse me, miss." A flight attendant stood there, smiling politely. "Would you be willing to move to a different seat? We have a passenger who needs to sit with his companion." Sophia looked around, confused. "Where would I move to? First class. Seat 2A. The businessman and college student both stared at her with obvious envy. Sophia gathered her belongings quickly, following the flight attendant to the front of the plane. The first-class cabin was spacious and elegant, with wide leather seats and passengers who sipped champagne while reading newspapers. Seat 2A was a window seat, and as Sophia settled into the luxurious chair, she noticed that Seat 2B was empty. She buckled her seat belt, still processing her unexpected upgrade when a familiar voice spoke beside her. "Fancy meeting you here." Sophia turned to find Vincent sliding into Seat 2B, that same amused expression on his face. Did you do this? You were in a middle seat." "I had an empty seat next to me. It seemed like a fair trade after ruining your morning." He buckled his own seat belt and accepted a glass of champagne from a flight attendant who seemed to know exactly what he wanted. "This is too much." The blouse was one thing but a first-class seat. Sophia felt overwhelmed by the gesture. "Please, let me do this. Consider it my apology for the coffee incident." Vincent turned to face her more fully. "Tell me about yourself, Sophia Lawson. What takes you to Chicago?" She hesitated, then decided that since they were going to be sitting together for the next 2 hours, she might as well make conversation. "I own a small marketing consulting firm. I have a meeting with a potential client, a restaurant group that is looking to rebrand." "Your own business?" "That is impressive. How long have you been running it?" 3 years. "I used to work for a large firm in New York, but I wanted more creative control." She accepted a glass of orange juice from the flight attendant. "What about you? What do you do?" "I work in hospitality," Vincent said, which was not technically a lie but also not the complete truth. "That's interesting. Hotels, among other things. I split my time between several cities." The plane began to taxi toward the runway and their conversation flowed easily. Vincent asked thoughtful questions about her business, seeming genuinely interested in her strategies for helping small businesses compete with larger corporations. Sophia found herself talking more than she usually did with strangers, drawn in by his focused attention and the intelligent questions he asked. "You clearly love what you do," Vincent observed as the plane lifted into the air. "I do. It is challenging, especially financially. There are months where I wonder if I made the right choice leaving my stable job, but then I help a client succeed and I remember why I started." She glanced at him. "Do you love your work?" Vincent considered the question carefully. "I do, but it can be isolating. I travel constantly, which means I am always in a new city but rarely feel like I am home anywhere." "That sounds lonely," Sophia said softly. "It can be." He met her eyes and something passed between them, a moment of understanding. "But then, you meet interesting people in airports, and it reminds you why the travel is worth it." They talked throughout the flight, covering everything from their favorite books to their most embarrassing moments. Sophia learned that Vincent had a dry sense of humor and a surprising knowledge of classic literature. He learned that she was terrible at cooking but excellent at baking, and that she had once accidentally sent a presentation to the wrong client, resulting in a pet store receiving marketing materials meant for a law firm. By the time the plane landed in Chicago, Sophia felt like she had known Vincent far longer than a few hours. They disembarked together, walking through the terminal toward baggage claim. "Where are you staying?" Vincent asked as they waited for the carousel to start moving. "The Whitmore Hotel downtown. It is close to where my meeting is." Vincent's expression changed slightly, but he recovered quickly. "That is a good hotel. Great location." Sophia grabbed her suitcase as it came around, and Vincent retrieved his own bag. They walked together toward the exit, and Sophia found herself reluctant for their encounter to end. "Thank you again for everything today," she said as they stood near the taxi stand. "The blouse, the seat upgrade, the conversation. You turned a terrible morning into something really nice." "It was my pleasure, Sophia." Vincent pulled out his phone. "Can I have your number? I would like to take you to dinner while you are in town." A proper apology. Her heart skipped. "You have already apologized quite thoroughly." "Then not an apology. Just dinner with someone I would like to get to know better." Sophia felt a flutter of excitement as she rattled off her number. Vincent typed it into his phone and immediately sent her a text, so she would have his information too. "I will call you tonight," he promised. "Good luck with your meeting." She watched as he climbed into a taxi, wondering if he would actually call or if this was just one of those brief airport connections that felt significant in the moment, but faded as soon as real life resumed. Shaking off the thought, she got into her own cab and directed the driver to the Whitmore Hotel. The hotel was as elegant as the reviews had promised, with a soaring lobby decorated in cream and gold tones. Sophia checked in at the front desk, accepting her key card from a friendly clerk, and headed to her room on the 15th floor. She had 2 hours before her meeting, enough time to shower, change, and review her presentation one more time. The meeting took place at the restaurant group's flagship location, a upscale Italian place in the heart of downtown Chicago. Sophia met with the 3 partners who owned the business, presenting her ideas for refreshing their brand while maintaining the authentic feel that had made them successful. The partners asked tough questions, but Sophia had answers for all of them. By the end of the 2-hour meeting, they were shaking her hand and promising to send over a contract within the week. Sophia left the restaurant feeling elated. Landing this account would be a game changer for her business, providing steady income for at least a year while also giving her an impressive portfolio piece. She walked back to her hotel, enjoying the crisp autumn air and the energy of the city. Back in her room, she kicked off her heels and was about to change into comfortable clothes when her phone rang. Vincent's name appeared on the screen. "Hello," Sophia, it is Vincent. How did your meeting go? The fact that he remembered and cared enough to ask made her smile. Really well. I think I got the account. That is fantastic. Congratulations. His voice was warm. Are you free for dinner tonight? I am. What did you have in mind? There is a restaurant I think you would love. Can I pick you up at 7? Sophia agreed, and after hanging up, she stood staring at her suitcase, realizing she had not packed anything particularly suitable for a nice dinner. She had brought business clothes and casual wear, but nothing for a date. Was this a date? She decided it must be and headed back out to find a shop. An hour later, she returned to the hotel with a simple black dress that hugged her curves in all the right ways without being too formal. She took her time getting ready, styling her dark brown hair in loose waves and applying makeup that enhanced her features without looking overdone. At 7 o'clock exactly, the front desk called to let her know she had a visitor. Sophia grabbed her purse and headed downstairs, her nerves and excitement mixing into an intoxicating anticipation. Vincent stood near the elevators, and when he saw her, his entire expression transformed. He was wearing dark slacks and a gray button-down shirt that made his eyes even more striking. "Sophia, you look beautiful." "Thank you. You clean up pretty well yourself." She felt her cheeks warm under his appreciative gaze. A sleek black car waited at the curb, and Vincent opened the door for her before sliding in beside her. The driver pulled into traffic smoothly, and Vincent turned to her. "I hope you like French cuisine." "I love it, though I rarely have it. Most of the French restaurants in New York are out of my budget. Then tonight is a treat." The restaurant he took her to was called Lumiere, and the moment they walked through the doors, Sophia understood this was not just any restaurant. The maitre d' greeted Vincent by name, immediately leading them to a private table near a window overlooking the Chicago River. The lights of the city reflected on the water's surface like liquid gold. "This place is incredible," Sophia said, taking in the intimate ambience and the other diners who all seemed to be dressed in expensive clothes and jewelry. "I am glad you like it." Vincent ordered a bottle of wine after consulting with her about her preferences, and soon they were sampling the most exquisite food Sophia had ever tasted. Over dinner, their conversation picked up where it had left off on the plane. Vincent told her about his travels, describing cities from Tokyo to Paris, with the kind of detail that came from someone who did more than just pass through. Sophia shared stories about her clients, including the disastrous campaign she had inherited from another consultant that she had managed to turn around. "You are resourceful," Vincent observed. "That is a valuable trait in business." "I had to be. When you are competing against firms with 10 times your resources, you have to be smarter and more creative." She took a sip of her wine. "But enough about work. Tell me something personal. What do you do when you are not traveling for business?" Vincent leaned back in his chair, considering. "I read a lot. I have a collection of first-edition books that I am quite proud of. I also enjoy cooking, though I rarely have time for it anymore." "What kind of cooking?" "Mostly Italian and Spanish dishes. My mother was from Spain, and she taught me her recipes before she passed away." "I am sorry about your mother," Sophia said softly. "It was a long time ago. I was 18, but I like keeping her memory alive through the food." He changed the subject, asking about her family. Sophia told him about her parents who still lived in her hometown in Connecticut, and her younger brother who was a teacher in Boston. They were close but busy with their own lives, connecting mostly through phone calls and occasional visits during holidays. Dessert arrived, a chocolate soufflé that melted on Sophia's tongue. She closed her eyes in appreciation, missing the way Vincent watched her with a soft expression. "This might be the best meal I have ever had," she admitted. I am glad I could share it with you." Vincent reached across the table, his hand covering hers. "I know we just met, but I feel like I have known you much longer." "I feel the same way." Sophia turned her hand over, lacing her fingers with his. "This is going to sound crazy, but I am really glad you ran into me at the airport." "So am I." They left the restaurant reluctantly, and Vincent suggested a walk along the river. The night air was cool but pleasant, and Sophia found herself walking close to Vincent's side as they strolled past other couples and tourists taking in the city lights. "How long are you staying in Chicago?" Vincent asked. "I was planning to fly back tomorrow afternoon." "What if you stayed longer, just a day or two more? I could show you the city." Sophia knew she should say no. She had work waiting for her back in New York, clients who needed her attention. But when she looked at Vincent, at the hope in his expression and the way his hand still held hers, she found herself reconsidering. "I could probably extend my trip," she said slowly. "I do not have any urgent deadlines this week." Vincent's smile was worth it. "Then let me take you to breakfast tomorrow. I know a place with the best pancakes you will ever taste." They walked for another hour before Vincent insisted on taking her back to her hotel. At the entrance to the Whitmore, he turned to face her, his hands gentle on her arms. "Thank you for tonight, Sophia. Thank you for the amazing dinner and the company." She hesitated, then rose on her toes to kiss his cheek. "I will see you tomorrow morning." She could feel his eyes on her as she walked into the hotel, and when she glanced back before entering the elevator, he was still standing there, watching with an expression that made her heart race. Back in her room, Sophia changed her flight and sent a few emails to clients, letting them know she would be working remotely for a couple of extra days. Then she fell into bed, her mind full of Vincent's gray eyes and the way his hand had felt holding hers. The next morning, Vincent picked her up at 9. He took her to a small diner tucked into a neighborhood away from the tourist areas. The pancakes were indeed the best she had ever had, fluffy and served with real maple syrup and fresh berries. "How did you find this place?" Sophia asked, savoring each bite. "I spent a lot of time in Chicago when I was younger. This was one of my favorite spots." Vincent watched her eat with amusement. "You really enjoy your food. Life is too short to not appreciate good pancakes." She pointed her fork at him. "Besides, you are the one who promised the best pancakes ever. If they had been mediocre, I would have been disappointed." After breakfast, Vincent took her to Millennium Park, where they joined the crowds taking selfies with the reflective Cloud Gate sculpture. He then surprised her by taking her to the Art Institute, where they spent hours wandering through galleries and debating the merits of various paintings. "You have strong opinions about Impressionism," Vincent noted as they stood before a Monet. "I wrote my college thesis on the movement. I was considering art history before I switched to business." Sophia tilted her head, studying the painting. "Sometimes I miss it. It is not too late to go back." "Maybe, but I love what I do now." She turned to him. "Do you have any secret passions you left behind?" Vincent was quiet for a moment. "I always wanted to write, fiction specifically, but life took me in a different direction." "You should write anyway, even if it is just for yourself." "Maybe I will." He took her hand and they continued through the museum. They had lunch at a small cafe. Then Vincent took her on an architecture boat tour of the Chicago River. The guide pointed out famous buildings and shared the history of the city's development after the Great Fire. Sophia leaned against the rail, feeling Vincent's presence beside her, and thought about how surreal the last 2 days had been. "Can I ask you something?" she said as the boat turned around to head back to the dock. "Anything." "Why me?" "I mean, you could have just apologized for the coffee and gone on your way. Why did you go to all this trouble?" Vincent was silent for a long moment, his eyes on the river. When he finally spoke, his voice was honest. "When I bumped into you at the airport and I saw your face, I felt something I have not felt in a very long time. A connection. A pull towards someone. I know that sounds ridiculous given that we had just met." "It does not sound ridiculous," Sophia said softly. "I felt it too." He turned to her then, his hand cupping her cheek. "I want to keep seeing you, Sophia. I know you live in New York and my life is complicated, but I want to try. I want that too." She leaned into his touch, feeling like everything in her life had been leading to this moment. Vincent kissed her as the boat pulled into the dock, his lips gentle but insistent. Sophia's hands found their way to his chest, feeling his heartbeat beneath her palms. When they finally pulled apart, she was breathless. That evening, Vincent took her to his hotel, which turned out to be the penthouse suite of the Whitmore, the same hotel where she was staying 15 floors below. The suite was massive, with floor-to-ceiling windows offering panoramic views of the city. "This is where you are staying." Sophia walked to the windows, taking in the spectacular view. "I spend enough time here that it made sense to keep a suite." Vincent came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Sophia, there is something I need to tell you." She turned in his arms, seeing the serious expression on his face. "What is it?" "I have not been completely honest with you about what I do." He took a breath. "My full name is Vincent Irving, and I own the Irving Hotel Group. We have properties in 15 countries. Sophia stared at him, processing this information. The Irving Hotel Group was one of the largest luxury hotel chains in the world. She had seen their properties featured in travel magazines and on lists of the world's best hotels. "You are Vincent Irving. The Vincent Irving." "Yes." She stepped back, needing space to think. "Why did you not tell me?" "Because when people know who I am, they treat me differently. They see the money and the business, not the person. When you looked at me in that airport, you just saw a man who had spilled your coffee. It was refreshing." He moved toward her slowly. "I should have told you sooner, and I am sorry, but everything else between us has been real. My feelings for you are real." Sophia walked to the couch and sat down, her mind racing. She thought about the past 2 days, about the easy way Vincent had moved through the airport and how the staff had treated him. The first-class seat, the private table at the restaurant, this penthouse suite. It all made sense now. "Sophia, please say something," Vincent said, sitting beside her but not touching her. "I need a minute." She closed her eyes, sorting through her emotions. She was not angry exactly, but she felt off balance. The man she had been falling for was not just a guy who worked in hospitality but a billionaire with a global empire. "This is a lot to take in. I know. And if you want to walk away right now, I will understand." His voice was quiet. "But I hope you will give me a chance to show you that who I am does not change what we have." Sophia opened her eyes and looked at him. She saw vulnerability in his expression, a fear that she would reject him. And she realized that despite the shock, her feelings for him had not changed. He was still the man who had bought her a blouse and made sure she caught her flight. The man who had held her hand by the river and kissed her on the boat. "I am not walking away," she said finally. "But I need you to be honest with me from now on. No more secrets." Relief flooded Vincent's face. "I promise, complete honesty." "Okay then." She managed a small smile. "So you are a billionaire. That is definitely a surprise. I am sorry I did not tell you sooner. Just answer me this, is the Whitmore Hotel one of yours?" "Yes. The Irving Group owns it." Sophia laughed, the tension breaking. "So I have been staying in your hotel this whole time?" "Technically, yes," Vincent smiled, reaching for her hand. "Does this change things between us?" "It makes things more complicated," she admitted. "We live in very different worlds, Vincent." "Maybe. But I think we could bridge that gap if we both want to." Sophia thought about her small apartment in Brooklyn and her struggling business. She thought about Vincent's penthouse suite and his international hotel empire. The differences were stark. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw the same connection that had drawn her to him in the airport. "I want to try," she said. Vincent pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "That is all I ask." They ordered room service and spent the evening talking. Vincent told her about growing up as the son of a hotel magnate, about the pressure he had faced to take over the family business after his father's death. He spoke about the loneliness of his lifestyle and how he had watched his friends settle down while he remained single, unable to find someone who saw past his wealth and status. Sophia shared her own fears about her business, about the constant worry that she would fail, and have to admit that leaving her stable job had been a mistake. She told him about a relationship that had ended badly 2 years ago when her ex-boyfriend had told her she was too ambitious and too focused on her career. "He was intimidated by your success," Vincent said. "Maybe. Or maybe I am just difficult to be with." Sophia rested her head on his shoulder. "You are not difficult. You are driven and passionate. Those are good qualities." Vincent stroked her hair. "Any man who cannot see that does not deserve you." They fell asleep on the couch, wrapped in each other's arms. When Sophia woke the next morning, the sun was streaming through the windows and Vincent was watching her with a soft expression. "Good morning," he murmured. "Good morning." She stretched, feeling more content than she had in months. "What time is it?" "Almost 9. I let you sleep." He stood, pulling her to her feet. "I have a meeting this afternoon that I cannot miss, but I want to spend the morning with you. Will you have breakfast with me?" They ate in the suite, a lavish spread prepared by the hotel's kitchen. Vincent seemed distracted, checking his phone frequently, and Sophia finally asked what was wrong. "My meeting this afternoon is with potential investors for a new property in Tokyo. It is important, but I would rather spend the day with you." He set his phone down. "When do you need to go back to New York?" "I should probably fly out tomorrow. I have been gone longer than I planned already." "Come to New York with me next week. I have business there and I would love to see you." Sophia felt a thrill at the prospect. "I would like that." They spent the morning walking through the city one more time, visiting neighborhoods and shops that Vincent thought she would enjoy. He bought her a scarf from a boutique, despite her protests, and she bought him a book from an independent bookstore, a first edition of Hemingway that she knew he would appreciate. When it was time for Vincent's meeting, he walked her back to the Whitmore and kissed her goodbye in the lobby. "I will call you tonight," he promised. "You better." Sophia went up to her room feeling the weight of their impending separation. They had only known each other for 3 days, but it felt like much longer. That evening, as she packed her suitcase, her phone rang. It was Vincent calling from his car on the way to dinner with the investors. "I miss you already," he said without preamble. "I miss you too. How did your meeting go?" "Better than expected. They are on board with the Tokyo project." His voice softened. "I keep thinking about you." "I keep thinking about you too." Sophia sat on the edge of the bed. "This is crazy, right? We barely know each other." "Maybe, but sometimes crazy is good." They talked for an hour, neither wanting to hang up. Finally, Vincent had to go to his dinner, and Sophia finished packing before crawling into bed. The next morning, she flew back to New York, her heart feeling heavier with each mile that separated her from Vincent. But when she landed at LaGuardia, she had 3 text messages from him and a voicemail telling her he could not wait to see her again. The next week was busy for Sophia. The restaurant group sent over the contract as promised, and she immediately dove into the work, developing a comprehensive rebranding strategy. But no matter how focused she tried to be, her thoughts kept drifting back to Vincent. They talked every day, sometimes for hours. Vincent called her from London, from Paris, from cities she had only dreamed of visiting. He sent her photos of beautiful architecture and funny signs. She sent him pictures of her work, of her tiny apartment, of the coffee shop where she met with clients on Thursday evening. Her doorbell rang. Sophia was not expecting anyone, and when she checked the peephole, she saw a delivery person holding a large bouquet of flowers. She opened the door, accepting the stunning arrangement of roses and lilies. The card read, "Counting the hours until I see you, V." Sophia felt tears prick her eyes. She texted Vincent immediately, thanking him for the flowers and telling him they were beautiful. His response came within seconds. "Not as beautiful as you. I land in New York tomorrow evening. Dinner at 8, she agreed, and spent the next day in a state of nervous excitement. She met with her restaurant clients in the morning, presenting the initial concepts and receiving enthusiastic approval. By the afternoon, she was home, trying to figure out what to wear. Vincent texted her his address, and when Sophia plugged it into her GPS, she realized he lived in a penthouse in Tribeca. Of course he did. She arrived at 8 sharp, and the doorman let her in, directing her to the private elevator that went straight to the penthouse. Her stomach was full of butterflies as the elevator rose, and when the doors opened directly into Vincent's apartment, her breath caught. The space was massive and modern, with exposed brick walls and contemporary art. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the Hudson River and the lights of New Jersey beyond. But Sophia barely noticed the apartment because Vincent was there, walking toward her with a smile that made her heart skip. "Hi," he said softly. "Hi." And then she was in his arms and he was kissing her like he had been waiting his whole life to do it. When they finally pulled apart, both breathless, Vincent rested his forehead against hers. "I missed you so much." "I missed you too." Sophia looked around the apartment. "Your place is amazing." "Thank you. Though I have to admit I barely spend any time here. It is more of a place to keep my things than a home." He took her hand. "Come on, I made dinner." "You cooked?" Sophia followed him to the kitchen, which was state-of-the-art with gleaming appliances and marble countertops. "I told you I enjoy cooking. I do not get to do it often, but I wanted tonight to be special." He had prepared paella, the rice perfectly cooked and infused with saffron, the seafood fresh and flavorful. They ate at the dining table, candles flickering between them. Vincent asked about her week, and Sophia told him about the progress with her restaurant clients. "They loved my ideas. This contract is going to really help my business stabilize." She took a sip of the wine Vincent had paired with the meal. "How was your trip? Productive?" "The London property needs some renovations, and I met with architects about the Paris expansion." He paused, "But I spent most of the time thinking about you." "I thought about you too, constantly." Sophia reached across the table, taking his hand. "Vincent, I need to ask you something." "Where is this going? I mean, we live in the same city now, but you travel all the time. How do we make this work?" Vincent was quiet for a moment, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "I have been thinking about that too. I want this to work, Sophia. I want you in my life. If that means traveling less, I will find a way to do it. If it means taking you with me sometimes, I would love that. We will figure it out together." "I want that too. But I also do not want you to change your life for me. Your work is important. You are important." Vincent stood, pulling her to her feet and into his arms. "I have spent years building my business, and I am proud of what I have accomplished. But I realized something this past week. Success does not mean much if you have no one to share it with." Sophia felt tears threaten again. "You are going to make me cry." "Happy tears, I hope." He kissed her gently. "Stay with me tonight. I want to fall asleep with you in my arms." She stayed, and they made love for the first time, a slow and tender exploration that left them both breathless. Afterward, they lay tangled in Vincent's bed, talking until the early hours of the morning. "Tell me something you have never told anyone," Sophia said, tracing patterns on his chest. Vincent thought for a moment. "I am terrified of failing. Everyone expects me to be this successful, confident businessman. But sometimes I lie awake at night worrying that I am going to make a decision that destroys everything my family built. That is a heavy burden to carry alone." Sophia pressed a kiss to his shoulder. "You do not have to carry it alone anymore. What about you? Tell me a secret." "I am scared that I am going to wake up one day and realize this was all a dream, that you are too good to be true." She met his eyes. "I am scared of getting hurt." "I will never hurt you, Sophia, not intentionally." Vincent rolled over, pinning her gently beneath him. "I am falling in love with you. I know it is fast, and I know we are still getting to know each other, but I cannot deny what I feel." Sophia felt her heart swell. "I am falling in love with you too." They kissed again, and the conversation gave way to touches and whispered endearments. When they finally fell asleep, the sun was beginning to rise over the city. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Vincent was in New York more than usual, rearranging his schedule to maximize their time together. They went to museums and shows, explored restaurants in every neighborhood, and spent quiet evenings at his apartment or her much smaller one. Sophia met Vincent's business partner, Marcus Rivera, over dinner one night. Marcus was friendly and sharp, clearly devoted to the success of the Irving Hotel Group, but also genuinely happy to see Vincent with someone. "I have known Vincent for 15 years and I have never seen him like this," Marcus told Sophia when Vincent stepped away to take a phone call. "You are good for him." "He is good for me too," Sophia admitted. Vincent introduced her to his small circle of close friends, people who had known him before his success, and treated him like a normal person. Sophia introduced Vincent to her best friend, Rachel, who worked as a nurse and had no idea who Vincent Irving was until Sophia explained. "A billionaire." "Seriously," Rachel said over brunch while Vincent was in the bathroom. "How does that even happen?" "I bumped into him at the airport," Sophia said, laughing at how absurd it sounded. "And now you are dating. This is like something out of a movie." Rachel shook her head. "He seems really into you, though. The way he looks at you is intense." Sophia knew what Rachel meant. Vincent looked at her like she was the most important person in any room. It was intoxicating and sometimes overwhelming. 2 months into their relationship, Vincent asked Sophia to travel with him to Venice. He had to check on the Irving property there, and he wanted her to come along. "I have never been to Italy," Sophia said, excitement and hesitation warring in her voice. "But I have client meetings I cannot reschedule. What if I arranged for you to work remotely? I will be in meetings during the day and you could use the hotel's business center. Then we would have the evenings together." Vincent was clearly prepared for her objections. "Please, Sophia. I want to share these places with you." She agreed, and a week later they were boarding a private plane to Venice. Sophia tried not to feel overwhelmed by the luxury of it all, the way the flight attendants catered to their every need, and the way Vincent seemed so comfortable in this world of wealth and privilege. Venice was magical. The hotel, an Irving property housed in a restored 16th-century palazzo, was stunning. Their suite overlooked the Grand Canal, and Sophia spent her mornings working on her laptop while watching gondolas glide past below. In the afternoons, after Vincent finished his meetings, they explored the city hand in hand. They got lost in narrow alleyways and stumbled upon hidden squares. They ate gelato and drank prosecco at outdoor cafes. Vincent took her to San Marco Square at sunset, and they fed the pigeons while a string quartet played nearby. "Thank you for bringing me here," Sophia said as they walked back to the hotel one evening. "This has been incredible. Thank you for coming." Vincent stopped walking, turning to face her. Behind him, the city glowed golden in the fading light. "Sophia, I love you. I know I said I was falling in love with you before, but now I am certain. I love you completely." "I love you too, Vincent." Sophia felt tears of joy slide down her cheeks. "So much." He kissed her there on the bridge, and passing tourists smiled at the romantic scene. That night, they made love in their suite with the windows open, the sounds of the city drifting in on the warm breeze. They stayed in Venice for 5 days, and Sophia felt herself falling deeper in love with both the city and the man beside her. Vincent was attentive and romantic, but also respected her need to work and maintain her own independence. He did not try to solve her business problems or offer money, which she appreciated. He simply listened and offered support. On their last night, they had dinner at a small restaurant away from the tourist areas, a place Vincent had discovered on a previous trip. The owner recognized him and greeted them warmly, insisting they try the special menu she had prepared. "You come here often?" Sophia asked after the owner returned to the kitchen. "A few times a year. Maria's family has owned this restaurant for 4 generations. She refuses to franchise or expand, even though I have offered to help her open locations in other cities." Vincent smiled. "She says that would ruin the magic. I think she is right. Some things are meant to stay small and special." Vincent studied her across the table. "Is that how you feel about your business? That you want to keep it small?" Sophia considered the question. "I do not know. Part of me would love to expand, to hire employees and take on bigger clients, but I also love the personal touch I can provide as a sole proprietor. I know every client personally, and I can give them attention that a larger firm could not. You will figure out the right path, and whatever you decide, I will support you." He reached across the table for her hand. "I believe in you, Sophia." They flew back to New York the next day, and reality set in as Sophia returned to her regular life. She had work to catch up on and bills to pay. Vincent immediately had to fly to Singapore for a conference, and they were apart for 10 days. The separation was hard, but they talked every day and texted constantly. Sophia found herself counting the hours until Vincent returned. When he finally walked back into her apartment, she practically leaped into his arms. "I hate being away from you," Vincent said, his face buried in her hair. "Then do not go away so much," Sophia teased, though part of her was serious. "I am working on that." Vincent pulled back to look at her. "I have been thinking about restructuring my role in the company. Marcus is more than capable of handling a lot of the day-to-day operations, and I have regional managers I trust. I do not need to personally visit every property as often as I do. Vincent, I do not want you to change your job for me. I am not doing it just for you. I am doing it for us, and for myself." He led her to the couch, sitting down and pulling her beside him. "I have been running at full speed for 15 years, ever since my father died and I took over the company. I never stopped to think about what I wanted my life to look like. But meeting you made me realize that I want more than just work. I want a home. I want someone to come back to at the end of the day. I want what we have, and I want to protect it." Sophia felt her eyes fill with tears. "I want that too." "Good, because I have a proposal for you." Vincent took her hands in his. "Move in with me. I know your lease is up next month, and I know this apartment is too small for what you need. Move into the penthouse. Or if you do not want to live there, we can find a place together, something that feels like ours." Sophia's heart raced. Moving in together was a big step, but it also felt right. She spent most of her time at Vincent's place anyway, and her tiny studio was becoming increasingly cramped as her business grew. "Are you sure? It has only been a few months. I am absolutely sure. I know we are moving fast, but I also know what I feel. I love you and I want to build a life with you. Vincent's gray eyes were intense. What do you say? Yes, I will move in with you. Sophia laughed as Vincent pulled her into his arms, spinning her around the small apartment. The move happened over the course of 2 weeks. Vincent hired movers for her furniture, though most of it went into storage since the penthouse was already fully furnished. Sophia brought her personal items, her books, and her collection of art prints. Vincent cleared out half of the massive walk-in closet for her clothes and gave her one of the spare bedrooms to use as an office. Living with Vincent was an adjustment, but a wonderful one. He was neat and organized, which matched her own tendencies. They fell into an easy routine of morning coffee together, before Sophia headed to her new office space, and Vincent went to his corporate headquarters downtown. Most evenings they cooked together or ordered in, eating dinner while catching up on their days. 3 months after Sophia moved in, Vincent surprised her by suggesting they host Thanksgiving at the penthouse. Sophia's parents and brother could come from the East Coast, and Vincent invited Marcus and a few close friends. "Are you sure you want to meet my family?" Sophia asked. "My mother is going to interrogate you. I am looking forward to it." Vincent seemed genuinely unconcerned. Thanksgiving was chaotic in the best way. Sophia's mother, Susan, was charmed by Vincent immediately, especially when he showed her his collection of vintage cookbooks. Her father, David, was more reserved but warmed up over the course of the day, especially when Vincent engaged him in a lengthy discussion about classic cars, her father's passion. Sophia's brother, Stephen, cornered her in the kitchen while they were preparing dessert. "He is a good guy, Sophia. I can tell he really loves you. I really love him too." Sophia smiled at her brother. "It is scary how much. That is how you know it is real." After everyone left and the apartment was clean, Sophia and Vincent collapsed on the couch, exhausted but happy. "Your family is wonderful," Vincent said, pulling her close. "Your mom invited me to Christmas and I accepted. I hope that is okay. More than okay, though I should warn you, Christmas at my parents' house is even more chaotic than today." Sophia snuggled into his side. "Thank you for doing this, for making such an effort with them. They are important to you, which makes them important to me." Vincent kissed the top of her head. "Besides, I enjoyed it. I have not had a family holiday in years." "What do you usually do for holidays?" "Work mostly, or travel." "Last Christmas I was in Dubai." He was quiet for a moment. This was much better. As winter settled over New York, Sophia's business continued to grow. The restaurant rebranding had been so successful that other businesses began reaching out to her for help. She hired her first employee, a recent college graduate named Emma who was eager to learn and had great creative instincts. Vincent was proud of her success and made a point of celebrating each new client and accomplishment. He never tried to use his connections to get her business, respecting her need to succeed on her own merits. In February, Vincent had to go to London for 2 weeks for the grand reopening of the newly renovated Irving London property. He asked Sophia to come with him, and this time she did not hesitate. Emma could handle things in New York, and Sophia had learned to work from anywhere. London was cold and rainy, but Sophia loved it. Vincent was busy with the reopening events, but they still found time to explore the city. He took her to the British Museum and the Tower of London. They had afternoon tea at a traditional hotel and saw a play in the West End. The night of the reopening gala was magical. Sophia wore a stunning emerald gown that Vincent had surprised her with, and she felt like a princess as they walked into the party. The ballroom was filled with celebrities, politicians, and business leaders. Vincent introduced her to everyone as his girlfriend, his hand never leaving her back, making it clear she was important to him. "You are amazing at this," Sophia said during a quiet moment when they had escaped to a balcony for some air. "At what? All of this. The schmoozing, the networking. You make it look effortless." She leaned against the railing, looking out at the London skyline. "It is part of the job, but I have learned that it is easier when I have you beside me." Vincent came to stand beside her. "You ground me, Sophia. You remind me what is important." She turned to him, seeing the sincerity in his expression. "I love you. I love you too." He kissed her softly. "Come on. We should get back before people notice the host is missing." They stayed in London for another week after the gala, and Sophia fell more in love with Vincent every day. She saw him in his element, running his empire with confidence and skill, but she also saw the private Vincent, the man who made her laugh and held her close at night. Back in New York, spring arrived with its usual burst of energy. Central Park filled with flowers, and the city felt alive again. Sophia and Vincent took long walks through the park, enjoying the warmer weather and each other's company. One Saturday afternoon in early May, almost a year after they had first met at the airport, Vincent suggested a walk. They strolled through the park, talking about everything and nothing, until Vincent led her to Bow Bridge. "This is one of my favorite spots in the city," Vincent said, stopping in the middle of the bridge. "It is beautiful." Sophia looked around at the lake and the trees, the spring foliage creating a canopy of green. "Sophia." Vincent's voice was serious, and when she turned to him, she found him down on one knee, a small velvet box in his hand, her breath caught. "Vincent, I know we have only been together for a year, but in that time you have changed my entire life. You have made me happier than I ever thought possible. You have given me a reason to slow down, to appreciate the moments that matter. I love you more than I can express, and I want to spend the rest of my life showing you how much you mean to me." He opened the box, revealing a stunning diamond ring that caught the sunlight and sparkled brilliantly. "Sophia Lawson, will you marry me?" Tears streamed down Sophia's face as she nodded. "Yes. Yes, Vincent, I will marry you." He stood, slipping the ring onto her finger before pulling her into his arms and kissing her deeply. Around them, other people in the park began to clap and cheer, but Sophia barely noticed. All she could see was Vincent, the man she loved, the man she was going to marry. That evening they celebrated with champagne and takeout from their favorite restaurant, sitting on the couch in their penthouse and calling their families to share the news. Sophia's mother cried happy tears and immediately began talking about wedding plans. Vincent's closest friends congratulated them, and Marcus sent a bottle of expensive wine with a note that said, "About time." The engagement period was a whirlwind of planning and decisions. Sophia and Vincent decided on a fall wedding, giving them 6 months to plan. They wanted something elegant but intimate, with only their closest friends and family. Vincent insisted that Sophia make all the decisions she wanted, but also made it clear he wanted to be involved. They chose a venue together, a historic estate in the Hudson Valley with beautiful gardens and views of the river. They tasted cakes and selected menus, debated flowers and color schemes. Through it all, their relationship only grew stronger. They had their first real fight in July, when Vincent made plans for a business trip without consulting Sophia. Forgetting it conflicted with her company's first anniversary party. They both said things they regretted, but they talked through it, learning how to communicate better and prioritize each other's needs. "I am sorry," Vincent said after they had both calmed down. "I should have checked with you first. And I am sorry for snapping at you." "I know your work is important." Sophia took his hand. "We are going to have moments like this, but as long as we keep talking to each other, we will be okay." "Always," Vincent promised. The weeks leading up to the wedding were stressful but exciting. Sophia's business continued to thrive, and she hired 2 more employees to help handle the workload. Vincent finalized plans for a new property in Barcelona and promoted Marcus to co-CEO, officially splitting the responsibilities so he could spend more time in New York. The wedding day arrived in late September, with perfect autumn weather. The leaves were just beginning to change colors, painting the Hudson Valley in shades of gold and crimson. Sophia got ready with her mother and Rachel in a suite at the estate, slipping into her wedding dress, a simple but elegant gown with lace details and a flowing skirt. "You look beautiful," her mother said, tears in her eyes. "Thank you, Mom." Sophia hugged her carefully, trying not to wrinkle the dress. The ceremony took place in the garden at sunset, the light golden and warm. Sophia walked down the aisle on her father's arm, her eyes locked on Vincent waiting for her at the altar. He looked impossibly handsome in his tuxedo, and when she reached him, she saw that his eyes were bright with unshed tears. They exchanged vows they had written themselves, promising to love and support each other through whatever life brought. Vincent's voice shook as he spoke about how Sophia had changed his life, how she had taught him what it meant to truly be happy. Sophia promised to always be his partner, his confidante, and his home. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Vincent kissed her with such tenderness that Sophia felt tears slide down her cheeks. Their guests erupted in applause, and they walked back down the aisle hand in hand, beginning their new life together. The reception was perfect. They danced their first dance to a song Vincent had chosen, and Sophia rested her head on his shoulder, feeling completely content. They ate delicious food, gave heartfelt toasts, and celebrated with the people they loved most. Late in the evening, Vincent pulled Sophia away from the party, leading her to a quiet corner of the garden. "Happy?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her. "Incredibly happy." Sophia looked up at the stars beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "I cannot believe we met just a year and a half ago. It feels like I have known you forever." "I feel the same way." Vincent kissed her forehead. "Thank you for bumping into me at that airport. Thank you for spilling coffee on me." Sophia laughed. "Best worst morning of my life." They stood there for a few more minutes, wrapped in each other's arms before returning to their reception. The party went late into the night, and by the time everyone had left and Sophia and Vincent retired to their suite, they were exhausted but blissfully happy. They honeymooned in Bali, spending 2 weeks in a private villa on the beach. They snorkeled and explored temples, took cooking classes, and received couples massages. But mostly they just enjoyed being together, without the distractions of work and daily life. "I could stay here forever," Sophia said one afternoon as they lounged by their private pool. "We could come back anytime you want." Vincent pulled her closer on the lounger they were sharing. "I want to take you everywhere, show you the whole world. As long as I am with you, I do not care where we go." They returned to New York refreshed and ready to start their married life. Sophia moved her office into a larger space and continued to grow her business. Vincent split his time between the New York headquarters and traveling to other properties, but he made sure he was home more often than not. A year after their wedding, Sophia discovered she was pregnant. She told Vincent over dinner at the restaurant where they had gone on their first date in Chicago, watching his face transform from confusion to shock to pure joy. "We are going to have a baby," he said, standing up so quickly he almost knocked over his chair. He moved around the table, pulling Sophia to her feet and into his arms. "We are going to be parents." "Yes," Sophia laughed and cried at the same time. "Are you happy?" Happy does not even begin to cover it. Vincent kissed her, his hands cradling her face. I love you so much, Sophia. Thank you for this gift. The pregnancy was smooth, and they prepared for their baby's arrival with excitement and nerves. They converted one of the spare bedrooms into a nursery, painting it a soft yellow and filling it with books and toys. Vincent read every parenting book he could find, while Sophia relied more on advice from her mother and Rachel. Their daughter, Isabella Marie Irving, was born in early June, perfect and healthy. Vincent cried when he held her for the first time, and Sophia fell completely in love with both her husband and their daughter in that moment. Parenthood was challenging but wonderful. Vincent took a month off from work to be home with Sophia and Isabella, and they figured out the new rhythms of their life together. Late-night feedings and diaper changes, the wonder of watching their daughter discover the world around her, the exhaustion and the joy all mixed together. She has your eyes, Vincent said one evening as they sat together on the couch, Isabella sleeping peacefully in his arms. But she has your stubbornness, Sophia teased, running a finger along their daughter's soft cheek. Poor girl does not stand a chance with the two of us as parents. Vincent looked up at Sophia. Thank you for this life, for everything. Thank you for bumping into me at that airport. Sophia leaned over to kiss him. Best accident of my life. 5 years later, Isabella had a little brother named Lucas, and the penthouse was filled with the chaos of family life. Sophia's business had grown into a successful firm with 10 employees, and Vincent had expanded the Irving Hotel Group to include properties on 6 continents. But despite their success, they always made time for each other and their children. They took family vacations to the Irving properties around the world, exposing Isabella and Lucas to different cultures and experiences. They had family dinners every night when Vincent was in town, and they maintained date nights once a week, keeping their connection strong on the anniversary of the day they met. Vincent always took Sophia back to that airport, and they would stand in the spot where they had collided. It became a tradition, a way of honoring the chance encounter that had changed both of their lives. You ever wonder what would have happened if I had been looking where I was going that day? Vincent asked on their 10th anniversary of meeting as they stood in their familiar spot at the airport. Sometimes, but I think we would have found each other eventually. Sophia leaned into his side. Some things are just meant to be. I love you, Sophia Irving. I love you too, Vincent. Always. They stood there for a moment longer, remembering that chaotic morning when a spilled cup of coffee had led to everything. Then they headed home to their children, to the life they had built together, grateful every day for the unexpected collision that had brought them together. Years continued to pass, filled with the ordinary and extraordinary moments that make up a life. Isabella grew into a confident teenager with her mother's business sense and her father's adventurous spirit. Lucas was quieter but thoughtful, with a love for books and art. The family remained close, even as the children grew more independent. Sophia and Vincent navigated the challenges that all couples face, the disagreements and the compromises, but their foundation remained strong. They had built their relationship on honesty, respect, and genuine love, and those things carried them through every difficulty. On their 20th wedding anniversary, Vincent surprised Sophia with a renewal of their vows, held in the same garden where they had first married. Their children stood beside them, along with their closest friends and family, as they once again promised to love each other for the rest of their lives. 20 years ago, I bumped into a beautiful woman at an airport, Vincent said during his vows. I spilled her coffee, ruined her blouse, and somehow convinced her to give me a chance. It was the luckiest moment of my life. Every day since then has been an adventure, and I cannot wait to see what the next 20 years bring. Sophia wiped away tears as she spoke her own vows. You traveled into my life when I least expected it, and you have been my home ever since. I love you more now than I did on our wedding day, and I will love you more tomorrow than I do today. You are my partner, my best friend, and the love of my life. They kissed as their family applauded, and Sophia thought about that morning at the airport, about how a simple collision had set her entire life on a new course. She thought about all the moments that had followed, the trips to Chicago and Venice and London, the proposal on Bow Bridge, the birth of their children, the thousand small moments that had woven their lives together. As the celebration continued around them, Vincent pulled Sophia close and whispered in her ear, "Thank you for bumping into me." Sophia smiled, her heart full. "Thank you for traveling into my life and staying." And in that moment, surrounded by everyone they loved, Sophia knew with absolute certainty that she had found exactly what she had been searching for all along, even if she had not known she was searching. She had found love, partnership, adventure, and home, all in the form of a man she had literally bumped into at an airport. Some love stories begin with careful planning and calculated risks. Others begin with a collision, a spilled cup of coffee, and a chance encounter that changes everything. Sophia and Vincent's story was proof that sometimes the best things in life happen when you are not looking, when you are running late and distracted, and suddenly find yourself face to face with your future. And as they danced together under the stars, their children laughing nearby and their friends raising toasts to their enduring love, both Sophia and Vincent silently thanked fate or destiny or simple chance for bringing them together on that ordinary morning that had turned out to be the beginning of everything extraordinary.